be careful, because they're also the ones that are at higher risk for skin cancer. I was coming back on the plane just last week, and some people from the Kennebunk area climbed onto the plane with me, and they were burnt brown. They weren't just red, they were red-brown. They had clearly gotten way too much sun, and their risk for skin cancer would be much, much higher. So if you do go south for that vacation in the sun in the winter to pick up your vitamin D levels, be careful. Sun exposure is wonderful, but never get a burn, and don't go for those deep tans. A deep tan is not healthy for you unless you were born with a deep tan. Then we'll certainly allow that.
There you go. Tell me about obesity. I understand that vitamin D is somehow affected by a person's weight.
It is. There's several things that seem to affect the body's ability to assimilate vitamin D from the sun. And one is obesity. If we are obese, we would need more time in the sun to assimilate a similar amount of vitamin D than someone who is thinner. So I think you have to factor all those pieces in. Another thing that would make a difference is how old you are. Like Jasmine, your daughter, she would pick up vitamin D faster than you would. As we grow older, it takes us longer to assimilate our vitamin D. But I think we can still get plenty of vitamin D, just staying out a little bit longer in the sunshine, writing a letter, reading a book, but then, making sure to stop and put on our sunscreen before we run any risk of a sunburn.
So the vitamin D assimilation, do we know if it's based upon being in the sun for a certain amount of time all at once? Is it accumulative throughout the day? Has the research borne that out?
The greater the intensity of the sun rays, the faster you assimilate the vitamin D. If you get sunshine in the morning hours, from, say, sun up till 9 o'clock, you'll have to spend longer in the sun than if you get it from 10 to 2. But you know that intuitively, because you burn faster in the middle of the day than you do at the beginning or the end of the day. Again, what we're trying to do is avoid burns and yet getting sunshine. And we want to get that sunshine or get it in our diets. My ideal would be to have all ages set up, even in nursing homes, have places where they could put the patients out in the sun, or people talk about tanning lights. You can get vitamin D from a tanning light as well, but don't go for a tan. That's not what we want, because those deep, dark, golden tans, golden brown tans, that's going to age your skin. Wrinkles are a sign of oxidative processes.
Thanks
going too far. Sorry. We want sunshine, but we want to avoid those deep, dark tans. The more often you get it, short periods of time, 10, 15 minutes, or if you're a darker skin, an olive skin, or a black person, then you'll need a little bit longer. But you can look at charts. They actually have lovely charts online that can tell you your skin type and how long you need, depending on the latitude and the time of year.
Interesting. So we talked a little bit about diet. Tell me about the role that fat plays in vitamin D.
Well, that's very closely related to the risk of cancers, particularly the melanomas. When they studied risk factors for melanomas, it seemed that fat in the diet was really closely related. I think there's a 90% higher risk of a melanoma with a high-fat diet, particularly with saturated fats.
Okay, now what's a saturated fat?
A saturated fat is a fat that's a solid at room temperature. And vegetable fats, by and large, are not solid at room temperature unless they've been changed. You've heard about trans fats. Those are vegetable fats that were liquid and are changed. And the hydrogenated or partially hydrogenated are vegetable oils that have been saturated or made solid at room temperature. Animal fats, by and large, are also saturated except for fish oils. They are not as highly saturated, although there are some saturated fats in fish oils. but it's the animal fats that are the problem, and hydrogenated or partially hydrogenated vegetable oils that cause the problem, that raise the risk not only for skin cancer, but also for the other cancers that we're familiar with.
So it's the butter, the lard, the hydrogenated margarines, the Crisco, that kind of stuff.
That's right.
That makes it.
Read the labels. Many of the baked goods, it'll say partially hydrogenated or hydrogenated soybean oil or corn oil or safflower oil. Those are the ones that you want to avoid if you want to lower your risk of skin cancer while you're increasing your vitamin D levels in the sun.
Interesting.